You're listening to a Frequency Podcast Network production.
When I first began researching Lisa's story years ago, one of the first things I set out to do was to speak with people who were there with Lisa the night she vanished, to find out what was going on that night at the Jungle nightclub and afterwards. I interview her dad, Don Young, who had a beer with Lisa and watched TV together that evening before she went out.
Lisa was going out with her friends for somebody's birthday, and she came over, and I was watching a hockey game or something. Her and I were really close, so she hung out for a while, and we had a beer, and she said, okay, I'm going out with my friends, and that was about it.
I speak to a young woman who worked at the Jungle and was there that night.
I do remember the Jaguar, the guy in the Jag was kind of cruising by.
I sit down with a reporter, Kendall Hansen.
And so I interviewed Dallas in August of 2002.
Sure enough, it's Lisa on her cell phone. I call her back. She goes, Dallas, I don't know what's going on. This guy won't bring me back.
But up until now, my knowledge of what exactly transpired after the Jungle has been thin. Now finally, in this episode, you'll hear from one of Lisa's friends, who was with Lisa at the after parties that night. He spoke to police back then, but he hasn't shared his story publicly till now. I'm Laura Palmer, and this is Where is Lisa? Island Crime Season 1. This is the Hot Tub Time Machine. Meet Jason Goodman.
I'm Jason. I live in Nanaimo. I work in sales.
He believes there's too much secrecy around Lisa's disappearance. More than 20 years on, he wants to talk about what he knows happened that evening.
100%. 100% open to that.
Like Lisa, Jason is in care for a time. He describes himself as rebellious, and he bounces around between family and homes before moving in with Dallas Hulley's family as a teen. Jason and Dallas were close, like brothers.
We were basically attached to the hip, playing video games and, just doing teenager stuff. Just, going out, skateboarding, got our first cars, we worked together, our first jobs, that kind of thing. Fighting over the same girlfriends, catching the same school bus.
His fondness for Dallas is clear.
An amazing guy, big heart, always there to help. He went through a rough patch near the end there, but overall, just loved animals, loved life. He was a life lover, He'd get up in the morning, it was all smiles. Very seldom did you see him on the negative end of the stick with, not being happy. And if it was something, he could usually find a way to brush it off relatively quickly. He would brighten the room. If you had 10 people sitting in a room and he showed up, it was always, whoa, Dallas is here. Like, wow, Dallas. And everybody would want to demand his attention because he was so good at showing his attention, and genuinely showing it.
In fact, his description of Dallas reminds me a little of how Lisa's friends felt about her.
It wasn't a farce. Like, he cared about you, cared about what you were doing, how your family was, how you were doing. And he remembered that stuff too. Wouldn't see not me, I would see him all the time, but I would watch, and he wouldn't see somebody for, a year and run into them again. And he'd remember the last thing they talked about and, pick up that conversation and check in on those points.
Questions have been raised about Dallas. Did he know more? Was his information reliable? And so hearing Jason's perspective on Dallas is helpful. But it's his detailed description of the first 2 house parties Lisa attends the night that she goes missing that is most eye-opening.
I was there that night, and I can tell you 100% what he said is what happened.
Dallas, and of course Lisa, can't tell us their version of events. Christopher Adair has chosen not to speak publicly about that night. And so Jason is the first to share his story. I wasn't there, but his description is consistent with the known facts of the case. I begin by asking him to step back in time, to think about where he's at in his life back on the Canada Day weekend, 2002.
Yeah, we're done with high school. Everybody's working, their first jobs, or I'm working my first jobs, and kind of just, learning the way of the walk of being out of high school and, having your own place and being a young adult, out of your teen years. But we were fresh out of the nest, so to say.
Jason is working at a grocery store. He's moved out of Dallas's family home. It's the Canada Day weekend, and he and his friends are partying.
I was with a couple other friends originally. We went to a small house party, and when I say small, 10 people, I don't know what people consider a small house party these days, but back then, that was just a gathering.
Jason and Dallas are in touch that night. Remember, it's now Dallas's birthday. And when Dallas and Lisa and their other friend Ryan leave the bar, they are keen to hook up with their pals and keep the party going. It is Christopher Adair, aka Red Jag Guy, that offers to drive the friends to meet Jason and the others.
That was in Harewood. We were there. There's a hot tub. We're all having drinks and whatnot. And then Dallas showed up to that house party with Lisa, another friend of ours, and this guy we'd never met, the Red Jaguar guy.
It's now the early hours of Sunday, June 30th. Jason remembers being a bit surprised to see Dallas and Lisa together.
We all kind of, just, bullshitting a bit. And I remember seeing Lisa with Dallas, which is a little bit odd because I didn't know that Dallas and Lisa knew each other that well. I knew were familiar with each other. I've heard rumors that they dated in the past. I don't think that's the case, but he's like, hey, Jay, check out who I found. I'm like, oh, sweet, Lisa, how you doing? Because Lisa and I had actually been hanging out quite frequently right around that time up at her apartment. So I had a different friend who was a very close friend of mine as well, who had an interest in her. So I was kind of wingmanning up to the apartment to hang out, and because she had a roommate, Lisa had a roommate there. So the four of us could kind of intermingle. So it was just weird to see another one of my best friends with Lisa. And, there was definitely some affection there. And I was like, okay, this is a little bit odd, but whatever. We're all young. Nobody's dating or engaged here or anything.
Jason's friend is interested in Lisa. And so Jason has been spending time at her place.
I knew Lisa for years. It just, like I said, around the time, it was just odd to see Lisa with Dallas, because another close friend of mine was, making his best to date Lisa. His first name is Rob. So we would go up to Lisa's place, hang out, whatever, a couple times a week. Nothing ever came of it from them. Like, there was no relationship. Nothing ever happened. Just because the other friend that I'm talking about was making his best to try and have romantic relations with her. And then Dallas shows up to the party with Lisa, and they were pretty affectionate.
Affectionate can mean different things to different people. Jason sees something romantic developing that night between Dallas and Lisa.
Very, very flirty. They, you could tell they've been drinking. They were definitely finding each other attractive. Who knows what could have happened beyond, if Lisa hadn't have left. But it just, you could see that things were, the mix was there. They were, huggy and kissy, but not like get a room type stuff. But it was they were definitely interested in each other.
He says that he and his other friends, Ryan and Wade, who were there that night, were all friends with Lisa. No one else had romantic intentions towards her. But then there's the new guy, Christopher Adair. Here's what Jason can recall about meeting Chris that night.
The best way I can describe it is he looked more professional than us. Like, he had his fancy car. He was dressed up, but maybe it was just for the bar. He was clean cut. He was more sober than I would have been leaving the bar. Just he had nice clothes on. He wasn't ratty, he was dressed nice. He was a polite guy. He made eye contact when he spoke. He had a genuine feel about him. He definitely was like straight-laced, sober-ish. Like, he might have had a couple drinks, but he wasn't like Dallas and my other friend and Lisa there. Like, you could tell they'd been drinking. Everybody, like I said, Dallas and Lisa were lush.
The Harewood party is now winding down, but the friends are keen to keep the fun going.
I mean, back then, the party didn't really ever end. It was like, where's the next party? You'd wake up in the morning and it's like, where are we going tonight? Who are we meeting up with? You're already phoning people, especially if it was your day off. Even if you worked, you got off at 4 p.m. It was like, by 6 o'clock, you were already driving to see where we were going. You know what I mean? At the hot tub party, it was a couple of us in the hot tub. Lisa, Dallas, and my other friend and the Jaguar guy, they didn't go into the hot tub because they came to the party, so they were like, still dressed and whatever. And we decided pretty quickly to go back to another friend of mine's house who also had a hot tub. So we're like, let's go back to his place. There's a hot tub there. This party's shutting down. His mom's out of town. We got, we can sit in the hot tub all night. We don't have to worry about the party going. And then we'll, everybody can go home in the morning when we're sobered up. And at that point, we shouldn't have driven to the other house anyway. But we were, not as drunk as we were later. So we leave this party. We weren't there very long, just enough to collaborate our new plan, get introduced to this new guy, Red Jaguar guy, who we hadn't met, but he's a new guy, decent looking, seemed polite. So we kind of, what are you all about? I'm this guy, came from the bar. We all hung out there for not very long. I mean, this is after the bar closed, so it was already pretty late, and we were definitely, inebriated.
At this point, Lisa leaves the Harewood party, accompanied by 5 men. Jason Goodman, the man who's telling the story. His friend, the late Dallas Hulley. His friends Ryan and Wade, and the new guy, Christopher Adair. Jason recalls getting out of the hot tub and heading to the next party.
I was in the hot tub with my other friend, whose house we went to after the party. His name's Wade. So yeah, we were just like I said, in the hot tub. When they got there, we got out, got dried off, got dressed, mingled for half an hour with Dallas and Lisa and Ryan and the Chris fella. And then we were like, okay, well, let's go back up to Wade's place because we've got the hot tub there. That party's not going to shut down. So nobody's there to give a shit. So we basically, Wade, myself, Lisa, Dallas, Ryan, and Chris got in 2 vehicles and went up to Wade's place. I mean, at that point where we're going the second place, I wouldn't say that was a party. It was me, Wade, you know what I mean? It was all friends except for Chris. Like, everybody knew each other except for Chris. The 5 of us, we all were we're all very familiar with each other.
This next, smaller gathering is out in the Cathers Lake area. A little lily pad-filled lake still in the city. The group splits into 2 vehicles. Chris, Lisa, Dallas, and Ryan in Chris's car. Wade and Jason in another.
So we got there. The driveway is a 3-story type house, and you got to go down to the basement around like this walkway around the back where the big porch is down there where the hot tub and stuff is. There's a main floor. So we're parked in the driveway at the main floor, and I don't know, we were out in the driveway for quite a bit, cracking beers and kind of BSing out there. And then we're like, well, let's head down and there's a pool table, let's play some pool, go in the hot tub, whatever, hang out.
It's at this point in the story where I sincerely wish the hot tub Jason is describing really was a time machine. That I could turn back time and see Lisa and her young friends make different choices. You may recall from earlier episodes that Lisa is a vegetarian. She wants something to eat.
And Lisa's like, well, I'm hungry. And then Wade's like, well, we'll barbecue some food, right? And she's like, well, I don't eat meat. And then it was like a debate about what we could make there that she would eat. And she just was not having that. She was like, I don't want that. I don't want the food here. I want Subway. They have a vegetable sub there. And then Chris was like, yeah, I'll drive you down there. It was all nonchalant. It was easy. The Subway's not too far. we were like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. Do you guys want anything? Nah, we'll just eat the barbecue food. Then she hopped in with Chris. Had her in the car. At that point, we figured they're going down a Subway to get a vegetable sub, and we'd see them in 20 minutes.
It's Dallas's birthday. He and Lisa are hitting it off. They've been flirting, affectionate, and now she's just left him high and dry with his buddies, while she takes off in a fancy car with a slick, good-looking guy. I wonder how that sits with the group.
Well, I'll say this. I think that I don't know if Chris had romantic intentions for Lisa, but I think Dallas saw Chris as a bit of a cock blocker in the situation. He was there was definitely there was one girl, right? And 4 young guys. Wade and I, not interested. Ryan, none. Or 5 young guys, sorry, including Chris. Ryan, Wade, myself. I know Lisa, we're not doing that. She's my friend. But, Dallas was definitely, had some romantic engagement going on. It's his birthday. They're drinking. And I never saw anything between Chris and Lisa where there was touching or flirting, but you could tell there was definitely an animosity that Chris, wanted to be in Dallas's shoes. Let's put it that way.
From the moment I first saw Lisa's beautiful picture, I wondered if her good looks had put her in some danger. And here it seems there is some evidence that tension had developed between the 2 men over Lisa that night.
Very, 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 very beautiful. Very nice person.
In their youth and in the haze of a booze-fueled night, they see nothing untoward about what is happening.
Chris is like, I'll just rip you down there. And basically the 4 of us went down to the basement to go get the hot tub lid off and get the barbecue fired up and the beers in the fridge and that kind of thing. So we went down there. They left to go off to the Subway.
In hindsight, it seems a little reckless. But back then,
none of us really thought anything of it. The guy, I don't know. It's hard because maybe we should have thought something of it, but it was so innocent. It was a normal thing for somebody to rip off the Subway, and it was normal for us to not care who we were going with. Like, I would have just as likely jumped in, and I'm a dude, so it's probably not as dangerous of a situation, but you know what I mean? It was just like, okay, she was confident. They, it seemed like this guy was cool. Everybody knew each other. We're good. Go, we'll see you. Get your Subway.
Confident. It's how Lisa's father and all her friends describe Lisa.
It's exactly it. She was confident. She was sure of herself, especially if it was in the situation. And she was a smart girl. So I'm sure that in her own mind, and I mean, we all felt the same thing, is that this guy there was nothing wrong with him, so it's fine. If she had read it differently, she wouldn't have gone. None of us read it that way.
What is Lisa thinking as she gets into Chris's car and heads for Subway? That's a question that will never be answered. But according to Jason, Lisa is in good spirits, and although she's been drinking, she's in control.
I mean, I don't have my serving it right, but I probably still would have served her another drink at the bar. But, it's the middle of the night, and people can show drinking differently as well. But she wasn't susceptible drunk, if that's kind of what you mean. It was she had her head about her.
Chris and Lisa have left the Cathers Lake gathering behind. As far as Lisa's friends know, she'll be back soon after a quick trip to the Subway. Wade's place has a pool table, couches, a fireplace, and yes, it has a hot tub too. The guys put their beer in the fridge, get the lid off the hot tub, and settle in. But after a while, they begin to wonder, where is Lisa?
She either called Dallas or Dallas called her, but we definitely were. It was right around that time when we're like, this is taking a while kind of thing. If I remember correctly, it was Dallas that had called her because, like, what's going on kind of thing. Like, what are you doing?
Jason is close to Dallas as this conversation is happening.
Yeah, we were all like in the, because there was no music, so you could hear the phone. It wasn't on speakerphone, but we were all sitting around Dallas is in the easy chair, and we were all kind of like hanging around the phone. The first phone call, not as much. I heard most of the phone call. The other guys were off doing the by the pool table.
He too cares about Lisa and is listening in to what's going on.
Called Lisa's cell phone. Lisa's like, yeah, we're they're at Subway. He wants to go to another house party. She doesn't want to go to the other house party. We're like, okay, well, do you want us to come and get you? Because the Subway's not that far from where Wade's house was. It's a 15-minute walk, maybe a 20-minute walk. She's like, nah, don't worry about that. I'll get it sorted out. I'll deal with this guy, whatever. I'll get back up there. And then she's like, and then we're like, do you want to catch a cab? That kind of thing. She's like, no. She's a firm girl when she thought she had that under control at that time for sure. She's like, I'm gonna, I'll deal with this, whatever.
So, how does Lisa sound on this first call with her friends from the Red Jag?
Annoyed. She sounded annoyed. She's like, he wants to go to some other party. I don't want to go to the other party. I'm telling him I want to go back up to see you guys, which makes me like, I don't know what happened after beyond the phone calls, but like all I can picture in my head is, oh, this Chris dude just doesn't want to bring her back up because Dallas and her are super flirty, and then it just puts him back out of the picture, right? Like that's, in my mind, that's what I was picturing, is this dude's just, if you take Dallas out of the equation, then he can be the flirty guy. You know what I mean? That's what I was picturing. Like, oh, he's just being a dick and wants to not let Dallas be around Lisa.
And then
she called back again because we were like, okay, whatever. All right, we'll see you in a bit. The first phone call wasn't so much. Like I said, he was like, okay, well, I'll call you back kind of thing. Let us know what's going on. We need to know what's happening. And then hung up. And then, he reflected that, he wants to go to some other party. Oh, and then, everybody's laughing. Oh, looks like your date's going to go out with a different guy. Ha, ha, ha. That kind of thing. Right. And then she called back and she's like, we're at a party on Bowen Road and the guy won't drive me home. He's not going to drive me home. Again, it's like, well, what are we going to do? She's like, somebody come and get me. But at that point, nobody, like, there was Chris had the vehicle and the rest of us were beyond being able to drive. Like, not legally, beyond being able to drive.
It's impossible not to think, if only. I recall Lisa's father, Don, relaying this story to me, and how he regretted that Lisa called a party with a bunch of drunk guys for help.
As far as I know, that's what she said. I'm in the car. He won't let me go back to your guys' place. We're at this party. I don't want to be at this party. I want to come back up to see you guys. And we're like, well, where are you? She's like, I don't know. I'm on Bowen Road at the house party or at some party. And we're like, well, where is the party? Like, should we come and get you from there? Do you need a cab? That kind of thing. Just trying to communicate like how we could get her there because we can't drive. And she's like, no, well, somebody come and get me. Somebody, help me. Just get me out of here.
That is essentially what the end of the phone call was. Help me. Get me out of here. Jason described Lisa's tone on the first call as annoyance. But by the second call?
The second call was definitely not just annoyance. You could tell there was more concern, and I don't want to play it off like it wasn't like she was like, hey, I'm handcuffed. They're gonna, I'm trapped. It was more like, he won't let me go back to the party. He won't let me out, go to the party. He not that he was like restraining her, but it's like he refuses to drive her anywhere other than this party. And you're on Bowen Road now and you're stuck with me or figure it out type of thing.
And what does Jason know about the Bowen Road party?
I don't know who was at that party. The only person I know that was at that party was Chris and her, and I don't even know if she actually went into that party. I just know that she was at that house. What happened beyond that is beyond my knowledge.
So why didn't Jason, Dallas, Wade, or Ryan help Lisa that night?
We were all still under the impression that Lisa's a not strong physical girl, but strong enough to be like, hey, whatever, and either walk back and call us and meet us like a meet halfway thing, or Bowen Road's not far from Country Club, and she had to move the next day. So at the same time, we're like, well, because she would have had to be back to her house early from Wade's, because she's like, if I stay with you guys for the night, I got to be back in the morning to do the move. And are you guys going to be up to like drive me kind of thing? And we're like, yeah, we'll make that happen, right? But that obviously never occurred.
I try to put myself in the shoes of these young guys. You were all young, partying, and yes, maybe you were a little reckless, naive.
I think we all kind of just figured she would either make her way home, let us know what's going on, but then we didn't hear anything. The night went on, the morning came, and then that's when it started to come to light that she hadn't gone home. We got phone calls. I can't remember who had phoned, but they were asking if we had seen her, and of course we had seen her, but she had never made it home.
Your friend is missing.
So then, of course, I'm phoning Dallas. Dallas is phoning Wade. What's going on? Have you heard anything? And this was before social media too, so it was there was a lot of gray area.
At that point, you're still hoping that things are going to turn out okay. But as the days go on, your worry mounts.
It wasn't Lisa's style at least that I know of, to disappear for a couple days out on a party. Maybe she met somebody at that party that she liked and that she knew, and they ended up going somewhere else, a different girlfriend. Who knows? At that point, that's kind of where my mind frame was anyway. Was like, well, maybe she, ended up having a few more drinks, went to a different girlfriend's house. She's sleeping it off. We'll see her tonight. We'll hear from her tomorrow morning. That kind of thing.
Jason is confirming a timeline Don Young has already laid out to me.
But then tomorrow morning came, and the next morning came, and still nobody had heard from her. The police contacted me, and we did an interview. I explained to them what had happened. That was pretty quick, within a few days, and I know that they had interviewed Dallas. I know they interviewed Wade.
It's early on when the police know the circumstances in which Lisa left behind her friends. They know about the Red Jag guy.
Yeah, though that was definitely a topic of conversation with right away. Like anybody we spoke to, it's like, Red Jaguar guy? Because we didn't know his name. That was his name to us. It's been his name to me until about a month ago when I learned his name. So Red Jaguar guy, was with her. Who knows Red Jaguar guy? Where's Red Jaguar guy from? We've never seen him, and we know flipping everybody. So, who is this guy?
I've interviewed at least a dozen people who have described driving around searching for Lisa in those early days. Jason, too, is out looking for his friend.
Her phone's just straight, to voicemail. She wasn't answering. We drove around, kind of looking at some of the more popular haunts, so to say, but no, nothing. Just without a trace type of thing. There was just nothing. So everybody's scrambling around, and Lisa ran in her own circles too. So she's got her family on one side looking for, friends on this side looking for, friends on this side looking for, and like I said, there's no social media, so there was no real. None of us all banded together. So there's just different factions of different people looking or trying to get answers, like who's the Red Jaguar guy? What party could she have been at? Where could she have gone? What friend is missing out of the circle right now that she could be with right now?
As Jason looks back on this horrific time, he wrestles with guilt.
I look back and I think there's different regrets, and I'm sure that I know Dallas felt a lot of them, over the years before he passed. We don't, conversation would come up quite frequently of like how things could have played out differently or how we could have changed the outcome. You know, we didn't phone the police, like, you know, but we at the time when she's like, hey, this dude's, you know, not letting me leave the party, you know, do we phone? We should have phoned the police. Clearly, we should have, but we didn't. But it didn't translate at the time to be a situation where we thought we should phone the police. But that's because we didn't have a loss of trust, I guess. In everybody gambled. Does that make sense? So we didn't think that that was a situation. That's not Nanaimo. That's not our scene. That's not, you know, this guy's just being a dick. We'll see her in an hour when, you know, or she's going to go home and we'll see her tomorrow when she's done moving, and we just didn't see her.
In the years to come, he and Dallas talk frequently about what they did and didn't do that night.
It was generally about how we could have made things different. And I think a lot of it was just discussing some of the guilt that we all carry for not making different decisions that night. It's like, you know, I to this day, I still feel terrible that we didn't make different choices, or somebody didn't go with them to the subway, or the choices that were made were the ones that were made, but could they have been different? And would Lisa still be here with us right now? You know, how much of a role did our choices play in the fate of the outcome of this?
As for the Red Jag guy, Christopher William Adair, Jason never sees him again. The last memory he has of him is waving goodbye as he drives off with Lisa to the subway. He recalls thinking, hey, there goes that nice guy taking Lisa to get food.
None of us ever seeked him out, and it probably would have been in Chris's best interest not to run into Dallas after that night. And that's probably part of the reason. You know, the police didn't really ever tell us anything. It's just always been 20 years later, it's still some veiled umbrella that we don't get to see underneath, you know, what details they have. So everybody still has to play a guessing game. Nobody shares the information. To me, that's insane, especially this long. Like, just, but they play their game their way. But that's, you know what I mean? For Dallas to seek Chris out, I mean, he would have, I know Dallas, he would have personally interrogated Chris until he got the answers. And that's not because Dallas is a mean, evil guy. That's because Dallas would have wholeheartedly wanted nothing but answers as to where Lisa is.
Dallas's life goes sideways in later years.
I think that it had a lot to do with some of the lifestyle changes that he made afterwards. He made some choices that weren't the best. And I won't say it's 100% because of that situation, but it definitely didn't help. I mean, everybody has skeletons in their closet, you know, and Dallas chose a route to deal with them that clearly wasn't healthy and didn't help him in the end.
There are drugs, there's some criminality, and ultimately, there is a sudden, tragic death on the side of the highway at 38 years old.
I think that her disappearing definitely weighed, like, the helplessness, the feeling of helplessness afterwards, of knowing that he could have gone with them, like I said, or even refuse to let him take her. Be like, nah, we'll walk her down, or argued harder to have her eat a salad out of the fridge, or, you know, just walk down to the subway on the first phone call, or, like, at least at that point we knew where she was. We could have, maybe she still would have been there in 15-20 minutes if we had thrown our shoes on and ripped out the door.
But as much as Dallas Hulley's life and death are intertwined in Lisa's story, it is Lisa who Jason now wants to keep the focus on.
This is Lisa's forum, and I want nothing more than to, you know, have closure for the family, for everybody. You know, any information I've said, if it helps, hopefully it does.
As for how he remembers Lisa that night,
You know, she was wearing pretty clothes. She was a pretty girl, and she was really, really happy. She was like upbeat, super upbeat that night.
I'm Laura Palmer, and this is Island Crime Season 1. Where is Lisa? Please take a moment to rate and review this podcast.